I will be your moon, you will be my sky, and I promise I will follow you until the end of the line. And I will be your flower if you will be the bee. And I promise I will always give you the sweetest parts of me. 'Cause you're the tip to my top, the key to my lock, you're my breakfast in the morning, you're my up to my down and the king of my crown, and you're everything I want. You got that sweet, sweet, sweet honey, and I want it sweet, sweet honey. You got that sweet, sweet honey, and I want it sweet, sweet, sweet honey. So give it to me.
Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. Delighted to see y'all here on a salty Saturday. Wireless Mike, hello. Wicked Foxy Dragon, good to see you. Jess Rush, Andrew, a.k.a. Just for Fun, delighted to see y'all. Man, oh man, I gots to say, when Jack Smith said, read the indictment, I assumed it was just because, you know, he did a lot of work. He's not a politician, and he's not interested in spinning anything. That's what I assumed. The reality is, he is an aspiring novelist because it's a page turner. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna look through that. We're going to look at Marjorie Taylor Greene making a fool of herself. We're going to look at Lauren Boebert generally making fun of the results of voting for people based on nonsense. When you vote for a bunch of con artists, you get conned. Go figure. And you get con artists running the show. Here's the thing. You don't become a con artist because you're great at a profession. You know, you become a con artist because all you can do is trick people to make money. Well, that's the subject of this salty Saturday, where we just fetch. You know what? I'm even gonna pop the old jacket off because I'll tell you, the new apartment is either freezing or boiling. You get one or the other. Mercy me. How's everybody doing out there in the world? He's dropping bombs, Mike Tyson style. Oh yes, sir, anti-corporatist. Favorite boxer of all time, and yet, also perhaps one of the most troubled. Ooh, got to check that out. Okay, so I'm also attempting, perhaps ill-advised, a new method of pulling clips, and right away I see a flaw in it. So expect a mildly awkward show, but with lots of laughs along the way. All right, I'm going to pull up right here. Not Dracula Dances to the Box, although I have to say that is a clip I have never gotten tired of. But instead, let me pull up the Marjorie Taylor Greene clip. Marjorie Taylor Greene Majority Report. Absolutely one of my favorite, I hope I've pulled the right one, absolutely one of my favorite things that's happened on a stage in the last, it was going to be in the last year, then I just realized Jack Smith's announcement was done technically on a stage. Nonetheless, we're going to do some Majority Report explaining why it is humorous that Marjorie Taylor Greene could not answer a relatively simple question. I already feel myself starting to do the segment, so I'm going to record it. How about that? So what are the consequences of electing con artists? If you get conned, you have con artists as your elected representatives. Well, maybe it's good to have a con artist in office. Maybe it's good to have someone who's slick in office. Yeah, except those people normally are just salesmen. They don't need to lie. Those people have careers in things other than crime and fooling people. No, when you get con artists in office, you get people who are only good at talking. In other words, they're good at talking to a specific group of people usually, and nothing else. Now, I realize glass houses, but I'll have you know, I'm a half-decent sandwich maker as well. No, Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them. And the other day, somebody had the idea, crazy thought, to actually ask her about a policy. And she couldn't answer it. Now, I'll tell you what, if this policy doesn't sound familiar to you, that's fine. Because as far as I know, none of you guys asked to be running things. And if you did get in charge, the thing that would happen is an assistant would bring you things you're supposed to know about, topics that are going to be talked about during the day, and you would open up those little pamphlets, those little binders they bring. You'd take about 45 minutes and you'd read through them, and it'd be boring as hell, but important, so you'd do it. And you would know the sort of things you'd be voting on. Now, at a local level, those things you're going to know most of anyway, because you live there. At a national level, you're expected to do a little more reading. You're expected to familiarize yourself with the matters of the day a little bit more. And if you never do any work at all, eventually, and inevitably, you're going to look foolish, sort of like Marjorie Taylor Greene does in this clip brought to us by the Majority Report. Here it is. So close. There we are.
Apropos of what Heather was saying at the end, in terms of like that piece that Hayes wrote a while back, where the Republicans are not interested in policy, and that's been the case for years and years, frankly. There is no, you can't really speak to even like austerity and deficit reduction, which used to be their sort of like their head fake towards policy. Their one policy answer for everything is cut taxes. But imagine being the biggest fundraiser in Republican politics. Imagine being considered the shadow Speaker of the House and not knowing what Glass-Steagall was. Imagine, I mean, honestly, we had the biggest financial crisis of probably anybody alive's lifetime. Pretty close. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could be 100, I guess, now, or more or less 90 and have dealt with the Great Depression. But the 2008 financial crisis was massive. There are some people who disagree about this, but I don't think the majority disagree. But those people who disagree know the premise as to whether the repeal of Glass-Steagall in the 90s which was the New Deal era legislation, which separated commercial from investment banks because of exactly what we saw in 2008 happen. And to not know what that is almost incomprehensible for anybody who's paid even the slightest bit of attention to politics. Certainly not someone who is considered the shadow Speaker of the House. I give you Marjorie Taylor Greene, ladies.
Yes. Great intro. Just want to clarify, Glass-Steagall was a protection put in place that got repealed. Its repeal is dangerous for our system of banking. In other words, I believe. But again, I want to stress: if you don't go Glass-Steagall, oh well, I can't believe doesn't know about Glass-Steagall. Yeah, again, this is for politicians to know. But another way to put this is, if you were a doctor and didn't know what a suture is, that's what he's talking about. Does somebody whose job is to design buildings need to know what a suture is? No. But a doctor sure as hell does. That is the context here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Will you lead the charge in reapplying the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933? I was born in 1974, so I'm not familiar with that. But I can have my staff look into it. Anna's back there. Anna's going to look into it. Thank you, Anna. Anna flew down from Washington today, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Whoops. She's not familiar with, like, the most important piece of legislation that, like, was instrumental. Its repeal was instrumental to the collapse of 2008.
I mean, even if you disagree that it's a repeal, and there are some people who do, I happen to think that they're absolutely wrong, but you know what the Glass-Steagall is. I mean, it is a major piece of legislation. Mm-hmm. What other things does she not know about?
I can answer that rhetorical question. Everything. MAGA politicians are not interested in legislating. They're not interested in fixing anything. They're not interested even in the consequences of their actions so long as they are isolated from them. This is who is getting elected. And the clips like that are what we gotta share. Now, that was a short clip that they played. Probably could have pulled it for the stream. But I think, and there's a reason I prop up the Majority Report so much, I think it is very important that we get a bridge between knowing nothing about politics to knowing how politics works, really works. And programs like that, like the Majority Report, are great for it. I try to do a bit of that here as well. But obviously, the show's called What You Can Do. This is meant mostly for y'all that are watching right now. During the week, we try to show you, okay, now that you formed a political opinion, now that you watch this stuff with some regularity, how can you act upon it? But folks need to know the nuts and bolts of this. And somebody like Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, Brandon Sutton, Matt Leck, those folks are for politics what Neil deGrasse Tyson is for science. Say what you I don't like Neil deGrasse Tyson in politics, but for science he's great. Carl Sagan, same thing. They're communicators and they're good at it. And they just hit the nail on the head with what is wrong with MAGA politicians. If you're looking for evidence that these people don't give a shit about the things they're talking about, there it is. In a 4-minute clip. Let's let him keep kicking that dead horse. Because it was a shitty horse and it deserves it.
that took place before 1974. I guess you'd get stuff like here. Maybe we may even need some. Oh shoot, where is that music? Darn it.
I mean, the fact that you're
yes,
asking this
exactly.
of her is incredibly smug and elitist. I got to be honest with you. The fact that you're asking for this kind of basic knowledge, it smells of East Coast bias.
I mean, you're talking about like
gatekeeping. See it right
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, the American with Disabilities Act.
When was the Constitution?
Constitution was even
that was before she was born.
at least 60 years
before
ago.
1933, I'm pretty sure.
But this is really stunning. It really is stunning. Like to not know, and you could tell that she also just thinks it's completely irrelevant. Like it's cute. Oh, are we going to reinstate? Is that the thing where you, I don't know, need light bulbs? She has no idea. I thought that's fascinating. I really.
Well, especially because their like new brand of Republican politics, people have spoken about them as like a building off of the Tea Party, right? Like this is the second level of what the Tea Party was, and the Tea Party was ostensibly all about fiscal responsibility, and it just goes to show that this whole group, they never gave a shit about that ever.
No, they didn't.
I mean, come on. Very little to add. Be salty about this. It's actually productive in this case to be salty about this. Man, I'll tell you what. I mean, I understand not knowing about these things. I'll even go a little bit farther and tell you I respect the fact that she didn't be like, well, you know, we're seriously considering it, but I'll tell you, this is, you know, it's been in place for such a long time. It's such an old law that we really need to give it some consideration. So I'll get back to you, but you know, just tread water and then move along. I'm glad she didn't do that. I'm glad she admitted to the ignorance. But the problem is having the ignorance on that particular matter really, really demonstrates that she is not familiar with the main cause of most of Americans' woes. It shows what she cares about, and it's not regulations on the banking industry. It's not making sure that we don't have another major economic meltdown. What is she interested in? Harassing trans people. Saying that Joe Biden is a socialist, even though she couldn't give you a definition of socialist. Even though she doesn't actually think he's a socialist, because she doesn't know what a socialist is. It shows you she's not a serious person. I do respect, credit where it's due, I do respect, at least in that moment, that she admitted she didn't know about it. That is maybe the one nice thing I'll say about her. And I also think that her constituents should take into consideration that they have put into power somebody who does not know about the nuts and bolts of perhaps the most relevant piece of legislation to the U.S. right now regarding regulating these big banks which cause all of our problems. And they should put somebody else there. God help me, I would take another Mitch McConnell over her. And that hurts me to say. Son of a gun. Let's see what y'all have to say. Just for fun, says the number 23 is my go-to Jim Carrey movie, The Anti-Corporatist. Okay, fair enough. Look, I'll have you know that the number 23 is exactly my kind of sci-fi, if you call it that. I do love the twists in it, although it's so hard for me. It's so hard for me to be scared in a Jim Carrey movie, because the entire time I'm just thinking about that time as Ace Ventura that he talked out of his butt. Oh my God, the Anti-Corporatist. I'm driving through a hailstorm in the middle of Wyoming, so if I drop for a while, I'll be back in an hour or so. Be safe, brother. That's a hell of a job. The Anti-Corporatist says, oh, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's assistant did sure what she needs to know. He showed her how to distract the referee, how to hit someone with a folding chair without hurting them too much. Yeah. Wicked Foxy Dragon, hey, I am younger than MTG. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who has a soul is in some way younger than Marjorie Taylor Greene, because her soul is that of an ancient Egyptian warlord. I don't know where I'm going with that. Glass-Steagall, says the Anti-Corporatist. She doesn't know Dodd-Frank. It wouldn't surprise me. Scott Ward, my nickname is Saltine. Some call Salty. I like it. It's a Scott Ward Saturday. Wicked Foxy Dragon. She doesn't know what a lot of things are. She did it by accident. Jess Rush. Dang, Jake. Mars Falcon, man after my own heart, saying, regulators, mount up. Yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna play a clip by an old coworker of mine. Fella's name is Spencer Soicher, and I annoyed him quite a lot, because he used to be my job to get him to post in social media that he didn't give a s about, and frankly, neither did I, but it was my job to harass him about it. But yes, he's moved on. He is now at KRDO. Well done, Spencer. And, well, wouldn't you know it, looks like we're going to be talking about the same thing today, because a gal by the name of Lauren Boebert missed a vote that she made a big damn deal about. We're going to have a gander at what old Spence had to say. I've literally never called him that. Had to say about the vote on the debt ceiling. You know, the one she said she was going to definitely vote no about. Let's record this. Well, Lauren Boebert, if we know anything about her, anything about what she's done recently, based off of what she said she was going to do, woman of her word, then we know she voted no on the debt ceiling. We know that, because she said she was going to vote no on the debt ceiling. She said it was a very important thing to vote no on. She was so determined to crash the U.S. economy over nonsense. To be clear, just to give a little background, Republicans racked up huge bills under Trump. Trump was responsible for 25% of the country's total debt, good God. And then, because they wanted Democrats to spend less on the people, they wanted Democrats to take the hit for cutting Social Security. They wanted Democrats to really just make life harder for all of us, because that's what they wanted. They decided that they were going to hold up the debt ceiling, take it hostage. Now, Joe Biden, say what you will about the man. They, like, for me, for example, saying he shouldn't even negotiate with these punks. Nonetheless, he's been in office in one form or another for a long, long time. And he danced circles around these punks. So for Republicans, it was all hands on deck to do a giant show vote and say no. Even though it's going to pass, those of us who really want to show that we're insufferable bastards, we're going to vote no on the debt ceiling. And Lauren Boebert was a vocal one amongst them. Let's go to Spencer Soicher to talk about what that vote of Lauren Boebert looked like.
Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert may need an explanation for her explanation. Boebert was the only Colorado congressperson who didn't show up to cast a vote on the debt ceiling bill. Mind you, she tweeted about how much she hated the deal 23 times in the week leading up to the vote. Yesterday, the representative put out a video saying she didn't vote on the debt ceiling bill on purpose. She said we should call her actions or inaction a silent protest. But this morning, a CNN producer posted a video of Boebert running up the Capitol steps trying to vote, but showing up too late.
They just closed it. They closed it? Yeah.
Now that video is in line with what an Axios reporter said on Wednesday night too. She wrote, quote, Rep. Lauren Boebert narrowly missed the vote, running up the steps right as they gavelled. KRDO reached out to Boebert's team tonight trying to find out if she was flat out lying yesterday when she said she chose not to vote. We have not heard back yet.
This is Democracy Watch. I'm joined by leading Democratic voting rights attorney in the United States and the founder.
We're not going to Brian Tyler Cohen, even though that did sound kind of interesting. No, stick with this. Yeah, couldn't even be bothered, huh? Now look, ultimately, would her vote have changed anything? No. No, it wouldn't have. So, what could she have done? Well, she could have said, I apologize. I was held up. I was delayed. Here's what happened. But she doesn't think it's important to be honest with her constituents. She, whatever that was, she didn't think that held her up. She thought it was more important than arriving to vote on time. So it must have been real damn important. And then she didn't think that her constituents were worthy of enough of her respect to be honest with. Maybe she thought they were too dumb, that they would simply not find out that she was lying. She must have. I don't know why. Look, somebody here is dumb. Either her constituents are dumb enough to fall for that lie, to fall for that obvious lie, or she's dumb enough to have forgotten she was caught on tape. When somebody's doing this with a phone, pointing it at you as you're running, they are recording you on their phone. Somebody's dumb. I don't know who. Either Boebert or her constituents or both. We'll see in 2024. That'll answer the question, whether it was Boebert or her constituents that were dumb. But what is definitely 100% known is that Lauren Boebert is a liar. She's a liar because she lied about why she did not vote on the debt ceiling. She said it was because it was a protest, but she was running real fast towards the vote and was surprised by the fact that too late. And she lied about it being important. Clearly. Because she made a huge deal about it. She tried to get people real mad about it. And she couldn't even be bothered to take time out of her day to go participate If you are a constituent of Lauren Boebert and you feel like your voice is not heard in Washington, now you know why. Get a better voice. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. Ooh, mercy me. Dawned on me, I really wish her constituents cared. It's like they thrive on her stupidity. Yeah, honestly, I've been looking into why that is, and I think that is. I think I have an explanation. Wicked Foxy Dragon. I went to school with Aaron Futrell, Ron Futrell's son. I didn't pick on him. I had a huge crush on him, though. Aw. Lulu girl, boinking her boyfriend is not a good excuse. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would have at least respected anything. Even if she said, like, yeah, I was at dinner and I just got real sad and I just couldn't leave. Like, if she would have been that honest about it, I'd at least respect it. Mars Falcon, they aren't worthy. They are that dumb. There's my lump of salt for the day. Yes, indeed. Ooh. Dawned on me, so please share, Jake. Ooh. Oh, Lulu girl, good to see you. Boinking your boyfriend. I didn't say that earlier. Yeah, boinking your boyfriend was a humorous thing. Let me tell you that. I'm not sure. Shared what? Oh, you talking about the since we're salty, anyone want to hear? Ooh, Jess Rush. Since we're salty on Saturday, anyone want to hear how I used to bully Chuck Todd in junior high school? Yes, please. I would like to hear that. I'm normally anti-bully. But I'm also normally anti-Chuck Todd. So, yes, I would very much like to hear that. Dawned on me. I'm sorry, I don't see the comment that you're asking me to share. Let me scroll a little bit more. Yeah, I don't see it. Type it again. Let me know. All right. Yeah, if you guys see it as well, I let my Jack Russell Terrier out before the stream, and when he came back in, he brought a fly with him. And I think that fly is just my roommate now, because if you can see the size of it, I keep averting my eyes and calling it sir when it passes by. I don't have the courage to throw that one out. So we got 3 in the old apartment now. Oh, good lord. Oop, did I bring it up? Did I? Lauren Boebert, you said you had thoughts about it. Yeah, I mean, Lauren Boebert, thoughts about her? I do. I have plenty. I thought I shared most of them. But the long and the short of it is... Oh, I see. Yes, I see. When I was talking about what they're communicating with... Oh, what the hell. We'll do it. I was going to do this with members only, but I'll tell you, being an insufferable lefty, I really feel a lot of guilt when it comes to doing members only stuff. I'll tell you this, though. If you are a member, and here is one thing that you definitely get, and you can enjoy it every day if you want. You can see the show being built. I have shared the document that I use to write the show every day. So if you want to know what I'm going to talk about, 18 hours beforehand, and you want to see the terrible version of it that I type out, usually that's way too far and way too intense that I got to boiled down. Yeah, become a member, and you can see that document. You can add comments. You can say, Jake, for God's sake, let it go, etc., etc. But in regards to Lauren Boebert and her constituents and all that, there was a interview that James O'Brien did that I found incredibly enlightening. And it basically, his obsession is Brexit. And his obsession, is more or less the English version of what we're dealing with here, the UK version of what we're dealing with here. And he had a guest on who kind of nailed it with how people fall down the rabbit hole. At least I think. And that's, people know what they know. We'll get into it. But dawned on me, in answer to your question, it's going to be this whole segment. Wasn't planning on doing it on a salty Saturday, but what the hell? Let's do it. Why not? Because I am a little salty about it. So, dawned on me, a member of the Wicked Senate, that's the folks that watch the show live, and if you're watching the VOD, hello to the Wicked House. She asks for me to share my thoughts on why I think people go for Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and those types, those people who are proudly ignorant, those people who are appealing only to the worst instincts that we all have. And I saw a clip the other day that I thought was enlightening. Now, most of this is just talking about other UK politics, but I thought it was so enlightening for the mentality that goes into voting for these people. And it comes down to people not knowing the specifics of how things work, but having a general sense of how they work. And the short of it going in, because I'm not trying to keep you in suspense here, the short of it going in is because people have a general sense of what is wrong with the country, but no sense of the specifics of who's doing it or why, con artists can come in and appeal to that outrage because it's in lieu of there being an actual proper solution to it currently existing within our system of government. So if the answer to stuffy corporate Republicans is stuffy corporate Democrats, and the outcomes are basically the same, whether it's because they voted for them willfully or they got forced into voting for them, the outcomes are still that middle-class people and lower get poorer while their bosses get richer. They're vulnerable to people like Boebert and Greene, who do things like miss important votes and not read up on what the Glass-Steagall Act was. Here's the interview. We're only going to watch a portion of it. Hopefully, you'll see what I'm talking about.
You've got a different hat on today.
I have. Yes, I've been involved this morning with the press conference launching with bestforbritain.org. And this basically is the first major MRP polling. So it's like a snapshot today where they are saying if there was an election now with the new boundaries for constituencies, which will take place, I believe, next month, what would happen? And this form of MRP, I should hasten to add, is very sophisticated. So rather than saying, oh, there are 2,000 people and it's demographically about right and then multiplying it out through the country, they take people like, oh, James.
Real quick, I have to apologize. I said that James O'Brien had a gross anti-trans take that made me stop watching him. That was only partially true. It did make me stop watching him because I misunderstood what he said. And it broke my heart. It genuinely took a lot of energy out of me to see this guy say what I thought he said. I have to eat my words. I was wrong. I was just flat out wrong. I misheard him. Then I clicked through the video at like the 3 most unfortunate times, and it made it seem like he was a TERF. He's not. He is not. He's definitely rough around the edges when it comes to talking about this stuff, but he's rough around the edges when he talks about everything. And functionally, what he was talking about was providing human rights for everybody, including trans people. So I apologize. I was wrong about James O'Brien. Should have done a bit at the beginning to really highlight that. I realize that now, but I wasn't planning on doing this clip just yet. So there you go. James O'Brien, not a TERF.
James O'Brien, okay, a typical James O'Brien, and they form a profile for a typical James O'Brien. Dare I describe him? No. And then they would take one for someone like me in her 60s, single parent, owns her own house, that kind of thing. Then they would take one for a plumber or a chippy or whatever, and so has his own business or her own business, drives a van, and they have these profiles for many thousands of not typical people, but so they just categorise as much as they can, and then they take polls for what those people would vote at any particular time, and then they map that onto a constituency using the census and all sorts of other data, so it becomes very accurate.
I see. Yes, I do. So you get a clearer constituency-specific picture of what is likely to happen based on demographics.
Yes.
Do you know what it stands for?
What, MRP?
Yeah.
Well, it's got a lot of syllables in it.
It's a big one. It's like your countdown days, this. It's multi-level regression and post-stratification. I just looked it up. It's fantastic,
very clever
isn't it?
being able to read it out, frankly, Mr. James O'Brien. But so that is the kind of statistical analysis behind it. So there was wonderful Naomi from Best for Britain, Professor John Curtis, who we see obviously mainly on the BBC, but on lots of channels, talking about, particularly on election night, and a wonderful guy called Luke Trill, whose company does a lot of focus groups. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes, I am. I know as well.
And he describes the qualitative stuff. So what are groups of people thinking about? And I've got some great descriptions. I've took lots of notes of what are they thinking about Sunak, Starmer and so on, and why they're voting this way. But fundamentally, the results that would come in if there were, obviously there isn't a general election, very sadly, and if it was done today, the best version of this would give Labour a 140-seat majority with 470 seats. I hasten to add this is for England, Scotland, Wales, not Northern Ireland. And the Conservatives would win 129 seats, still far too many, in my opinion. But when you look at, then they can take out Reform. If Reform UK stood back in Conservative marginals, that changes because there's a big assumption that if you're going to vote Reform, you would, and they weren't there, you would then vote Conservative.
Well, that's the party.
For the record, they do get to what I was interested in soon-ish. It's the beginning half of this clip. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly where it is, and it was one line, but it literally made me pause it and listen to it a couple of times. Some of that was the ADD, but also it's that useful. So we're hearing her methodology for understanding what the electorate will do. And by the way, listening to how another country, if you're from the U.S., does measure how votes are going to go is also useful. And it's the nitty and the gritty.
That Farage was leading last time round, isn't it? So they did withdraw from Conservative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they stood back, that shows in this polling, in this.
Also, while she was talking, I tried to escort the fly out, and he didn't say anything. And then he said he didn't say anything when I told him to leave. And then he said, "Give me $5." And I said, "Come on, man." And he said, "Let me hold on to $5." And I said, "Yes, sir. I think it's here to stay."
Statistical polling that Labour could drop to around 400 seats, and the Conservatives will go up to about 200 seats. So the biggest block was of voters was Labour at 35%, Conservative 23%. I know, who are these people? And the don't knows are the third biggest block at 12%.
Okay.
So if you then assumed that a lot of those, because a lot of the don't knows were Conservative voters, if you assume they go back, then you start to get into tricky territory when you combine that with reform standing down as well. So those...
It's useful, but it's not that useful. I'm going to try to jump ahead.
More seats than the fundamentally what they were talking about, but it was a sort of, what are people thinking? This is what Luke was.
I'll just mention this is the modelling, the MRP modelling. It was the one that got 2017 bang on, including the shocks in places like Kensington and Canterbury, which I didn't understand at the time. But now you've explained the constituency-specific nature of the work. That's how they could know in 2017 that Kensington was going to surprise everybody.
Absolutely, and in 2019 they got it within one seat.
It's incredible, isn't it?
So it is incredible. So it is, as far as analysis can go and projection can go, it's very, very important. And Naomi from Best for Britain said in 2019, she said to the Liberals, don't go with this. Just don't go and say, let's have another election, because this is what's going to happen. And they ignored it. Anyway, we know what happened after that. So it's very interesting. They were talking about, Luke from More in Common was talking about the focus groups. And fundamentally, they say that the Labour support is large, but it is falling in these marginal constituencies from about 6.
I am going to try to find this individual part. I want to hear how she said it. Here's the downside to the live stream. The VOD folks are going to get the edited version, where we're not having to listen to that much nitty-gritty.
Win for him.
Yes.
It just is.
But the popularity of the Conservative Party is down from 55 to 23%. So, from going back to 2019.
Gosh.
So a lot of things that people are saying are, well, he's not really strong enough. Why can't he stand up to Johnson? A lot of people call him Little Rishi.
Oh, really?
Little Rishi can't stand up to people. They hate the non-dom.
Do they?
That obviously with his wife
of course.
Choosing non-dom tax status.
So this is all despite right-wing media coverage. It's actually despite of it, not alongside it or because of it, but this is despite being constantly told the world.
Because we all know it. When I always have this phrase, you know what you know. And you do, and you know when you're being lied to. And the vast majority, look at the local election results, the vast majority of people know that there's something not right. They know they're being lied to, no matter whether they read the Daily Mail or not. Yeah. But the Conservative base, he said, was split. So you have effectively the red wall, which they describe as loyal nationals.
Right.
Go back.
Local election results. The vast...
Let's go back. Hear it again.
Or because of it, but this is despite being constantly told the world.
Because we all know it. When I always have this phrase, you know what you know. And you do, and you know when you're being lied to. And the vast majority, look at the local election results, the vast majority of people know that there's something not right. They know they're being lied to, no matter whether they read the Daily Mail or not. Yeah. But the Conservative base, he said, was split. So you have effectively the red wall, which they describe as loyal.
Carol Vorderman. Never mind my long-standing crush on her. She's right. People know what they know. What do they know in the United States? Sorry, it was first part of the second half, it turns out. My bad. Let's talk about that on the other side. So how does that translate to politics in the United States? Well, people see that we used to have our richest people be millionaires. Remember Brewster's Millions? Brewster becomes a rich person, Richard Pryor, because he gets millions, not billions. The big challenge is he's got to find a way to spend the hook of that movie. He's got to find a way to spend millions of dollars by within a certain amount of time, and that's a challenge for him. And they look around and they see that you used to be able to work at a gas station and support a family. You used to be able to be a waitress and raise a couple of kids. You used to be able to be someone who is a mechanic, and you could afford a car yourself without having it be entirely reliant on your ability to fix it yourself. They see that the middle class is shrinking. In fact, it's gone. And there is now an aristocracy, and there's us. And they feel it. They live it. They don't necessarily see it in those exact words, but that's the gist. And they're constantly told. They're told by the left. They're told by the right. We're going to fix it. They don't say specifically what they're going to fix. There's just promises to make things better, and things keep getting worse. And how do they get worse? How do they get worse? Because there's actually a way to measure that. You'll only hear it talked about vaguely by people that don't have an interest in actually fixing it. I sure do. I got an interest in fixing it, I'll tell you. The percentage of our labor, as in American productivity, keeps going up. In fact, it's skyrocketed. And it's not just true in America, it's true around the world. Productivity is flying up. But instead of the people who were more productive getting more money, instead what's happening is they're having to work even harder just to survive. And now we're at a point where you cannot work hard enough to survive. It's been a long time since you could have worked hard enough being a regular person to live comfortably. You have to take on debt. You want your kids to live a good life? You want your kids to have a college education? They're going to have to enter the working world with debt. They're going to have to owe some unnamed rich person somewhere. So what happens? What happens is people like Lauren Boebert, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Matt Gaetz, people like Donald Trump, one of the worst offenders here, they tell you it's a mysterious cabal. The Jews. It's those darn brown people coming across our border. They're the ones. They're the ones taking up all your labor. And they do a lot of work to make sure you don't know that we've measured it. And we actually know who's stealing all your labor. And it's they are right, it is a tiny group of people. It's got nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with religion. Doesn't even have anything really to do with nationality. It's just your boss. In fact, it's not even your boss. It's your boss's boss's boss. It's the person that owns the mega conglomerate that owns 100 companies, one of which you work for a franchise of. That is who is the problem. It's because we allow this person who benefits from the roads and the police that keep people from speeding on the roads. Ultimately, that's really all we need them to do. At least when we're talking about the patrolmen. It's the people that benefit from the schools. It's the people that benefit from you working, being productive. It is the people who themselves are not productive at all. They sign checks that could be signed automatically by a computer. It's those people who take all the profit. And they do really risky things with it. And when those risks fail, do they pay for it themselves? No, we pay for it. The people are left with these feelings of betrayal, and they're right to feel that way. They're quite right to feel that way. But they don't know the specifics, so they are vulnerable to lies. That's the cause. That's it. That's the problem. People want to believe in Pizzagate. People want to believe in the kind of evil that we see in the movies. People want to see a villain with a long mustache to twirl and a damsel tied up on railroad tracks, because that's a more entertaining story most of the time. That's what we're used to seeing in our stories, but the real evil, the real harm, it's so much more boring than that. It's the person that told your grandfather that smoking won't kill you until it killed him. The people that told you the same thing this very week about wildfires. All that smog in New York, that won't kill you. The people that tell you lies. But most importantly, quite simply, it's the people that take your productivity. When I say they take your productivity, I mean you do X amount of work, and that work gets divided up, and you give a portion of it to your boss. And over years, slowly, they've been stealing a larger and larger portion of it. You can argue some portion of that is fair. You were allowed to do the work in the first place because they hired you to do that work, and they provided you with the tools. Okay, neat. They are, let's say, owed a fee for the opportunity to be productive. But you were the productive person, not them. Don't get it twisted. What you did had more value. And the fact that they are now taking the majority of the value of your labor is why a waitress cannot afford to raise kids being a waitress. A car mechanic has to walk to work. It's just not sustainable. And Donald Trump and his ilk, they are a response to that. Guess what? So was Barack Obama. He was elected on the promise of change. He didn't provide it. Donald Trump was elected on the promise of destruction. Why are they supporting the storm? Because a lot of these people would rather see the destruction of the country than go on being the marks for billionaires. It's just that they don't think it's billionaires because they've been lied to. They think it's all sorts of other folks. So our job, you, me, our job is to set them straight. Who's causing their problems? Just point them at these folks. It's entirely possible we won't agree on most things, but when presented with the facts and the opportunity for revenge, I think the American people, and frankly, folks around the world, have demonstrated a willingness to get these motherfuckers. But it's got to start with redirecting. It's got to start with education, and we have to make the education accessible. We have to speak in terms folks will understand. We cannot say we need to control the means of production. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. Put it in ways people can understand. Your boss's boss is stealing from you because they are allowed to. That's all it comes down to. That is the answer dawned on me. Anti-corporatist. They already ate Mowgli's Talese. We just need to help them realize that that doesn't mean Jews and Democrats. Fair. Wireless Mike, I posted a video about the people who are the real cause. Jake. Ooh. Let me refresh that sheet. Damn it. Did you put it in the Salty Saturday sheet? Let me share that again. I'm gonna here's that link again. If you've got it on your own channel, I'd love to check it out. Lulu Girl, I think golden retrievers are the prettiest dogs. They're just perfect in every way. Yeah, they're pretty great. Oh, Zoe, she is a good girl. How you doing, Zoe? You good girl. Mars Falcon, spend it all without owning any assets at the end. That was the trick. It shows how hard it is to lose that much cash without owning a bunch of stuff. Yes. Yes, indeed. Tamara Chance. Jake. Greetings and felicitations. You don't hear much about felicitating these days. Yeah, right? Salutations as well. I'll throw that at you. Oh, Friday Peace Talks. All right. Oh, this one here. All right, I see it, Wireless. Oh, yes, Tom Hartman. I was planning on doing this. I'm delighted that we're going to do it now. Why not? Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. By the way, if you're not familiar with British television generally, their game show scene these days is just the best. It's the best. I highly recommend anything related to Britain and that rotating cast of comedians that is just constantly appearing on each other's shows. I don't know how that was like what they got instead of reality TV becoming that popular. I know they have their own reality programming, but these are more common and it's great. QI is great. What's the best one though? Come on, what's that show that they do that is it's got little Alex Horn and Greg Davies? Killing me that I can't remember. Because I've watched like all the seasons. Taskmaster. Watch Taskmaster. You'll have it. If you want to unwind and just not be totally depressed, that's what I recommend. All right, let's talk about politics. Why not? Got a suggestion from Wireless Mike. It's one I have been meaning to do for a while. I'm sorry. I've seen that you put it up. It's my man Tom Hartman, one of the coolest cats on the internet, arguably second coolest. And he's talking about what is ultimately the problem we got to deal with, which is that we live in an oligarchy. But great news, we can handle it. We can deal with this because this is still technically a representative democracy. All the bribes being given, all of those bribes, they don't work if we don't vote for the people that take them. So let's see how Tom Hartman says we should deal with this, what the problem is, and how we should deal with it. Let's get into it.
Deal with our oligarch problem. And, I start out by telling you the story of Viktor Medvedchuk. He was the Rupert Murdoch of Ukraine. He was a billionaire oligarch who owned a right-wing television network and a whole bunch of TV stations.
I just realized we did this one. F it, let's watch it again.
Along with a bunch of other businesses in Ukraine, and his TV network was constantly spewing hate and division and he was.
Let's see if other folks, anti-corporatists saw this. Okay, yeah, actually, we did do this one. Here's wireless mic. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I don't recall when we did this, but we did this at some point last week. Means this is going to be a very confusing recording for me. No, I got a veto. I'm sorry. Tell you what, let's keep this theme going and find something where we can really heckle a billionaire. Christ. There we go. Yeah. Well, wireless mic, look for the show we did at some point this week, and you will see that regarding this, it's got Tom Hartman. I think in the thumbnail, and we will look at Elon Musk's embarrassment. Filters today. Oh God, yes. Okay, stand by. We're going to have a little bit of fun. All right, this is the co-founder of Twitter. And no worries, wireless mic. It shows that you know exactly my tastes, because that was a great clip from Tom Hartman. But since we're on the topic of billionaires being scumbags, why don't we have a little bit of fun with Mr. Elon Musk? We're going to record this one. Well, in case you've been living in a cave for the last year, Elon Musk bought Twitter and it's going poorly. Let's have a very quick look at what one of Twitter's co-founders has to say about the way his takeover's gone. Should do a lot to disillusion folks that think he's a genius.
When Elon burst onto the scene, were you both just like, what?
Yeah, it was surprising. I mean, I'm trying to remember the first bursting on, or if I was even aware of it. Were you?
The idea that he was going to buy the company, to me, initially seemed like, oh, he's not going to be really serious about this. It's going to be like the way you sort of, put in a reservation on like a fancy sports car.
There have been a couple moments where I'm like, oh, I started this thing.
Yeah, that totally relatable. The way you put in a reservation on a sports car. Yeah, sure. I relate to that. Yeah.
Some other people a long time ago in this little office, and then the world's richest man bought it.
Right.
And it's this big news story. It's like, how did that happen? That's weird.
Was there any part of you that was like, oh, this is interesting, maybe it's a little exciting?
Totally, yes. I like interesting things to happen.
Right.
I'm not a fan of things staying the way they are. I mean, that's why we do tech. That's why we start new things. Twitter had been getting better and better. Actually, the trajectory of improvements in the year or two prior to Elon. But then it was like, Elon, holy moly, he does crazy things. This will be interesting and fun. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We may differ on this. But
So how do you feel about what he's done so far?
I don't think he's dialed it in quite right yet.
Well, it's gone pretty poorly. I mean, just objectively speaking.
Yeah, just objectively speaking, I would also say it's gone pretty poorly. So the idea there just being, oh my God, don't think that these billionaires do anything that is worth $1 billion. I'm not against the idea that you can make $1 billion. I'm not against that. I just don't think any human in history, except for maybe a scientist by the name of Salk, maybe Louis Pasteur, I don't think you can do anything that provides an amount of value that is actually worth $1 billion. I just think once you provide a company which collectively has a value of $100 million, life goes into easy mode for you. And if you are an immoral person, you can take $1 billion. But in order for you to take that amount of money, you have to take it from people who are genuinely doing the work. You're a thief, in other words. You're not breaking the law because you've bribed politicians to make the law permit this thievery, but it's still thievery on a moral scale. So when people talk about Musk like he's a brilliant person who's doing work worthy of the billions he has, no, he is not. He is not. Case in point, he bought Twitter for $40 billion because he was having a post-divorce crisis, whoopsie daisy, and it's currently worth $15 billion. He lost a hell of a lot of money. He lost $25 billion worth of value just by being a jackass. He is not worth that much money. And if you think somebody should be able to be worth $40 billion or whatever the hell Elon Musk was worth, well, guess what? Elon Musk is not. So our system does not work in a way that makes sure that much influence, that much power goes to the right folks. And if he had it, that means all that influence, all that power should have been divided up amongst a bunch of other folks. So we need to fix our system. Use Elon Musk as an example of why things don't work right now. Your lives are harder because his is a fantasy world. And he's not even happy. He's desperate for internet friends. That's where he is. There's nothing wrong with being desperate for internet friends. If you're trying to meet people, you're trying to maybe turn over a leaf, or you're trying to expand your horizons. But if $1 billion provided what it's supposed to provide, you wouldn't need to do that. Doesn't make him happy. It's wasted. Doesn't make him happier than having 500 million would. It just gives him the ability to decide that Twitter is going to be a terrorist factory now. Because I'm bummed out that Grimes doesn't love me anymore. Heartbreaking, folks. There are relatively simple ways we can fix this. I know it's Salty Saturday. We're just being salty. So there's not going to be a whole action plan. Just hold this in your heart. You want this to be fixed? 2024. You get on the ballot. You look for people near you that are on the ballot, that are singing this song. We can knock up the top tax rate back to the way we used to. Go back to the 70s. Do a 70% tax rate instead of the 30% we have now, 37% I think it is we have now. And just like that, suddenly no more potholes. Suddenly Schools have all the computers, all the books, all the whatever they need. Suddenly, a whole lot of the woes, which the far right uses to inspire people to hate brown people and trans people and black people and gay people and anybody they can spot, foreigners, that person who's a different kind of white than you are, that person who's a different kind of religion than you are, all of that goes away. All we have to do is take back the profit from the work we do. If you're exhausted at the end of the day, we got a fella that's watching this show, and every day he's on the road working. That's work. That's productivity. I would be much more comfortable with him having $1 billion if somebody's got to have it than Elon Musk, who just wanders around the office bothering people. He doesn't deserve that. Use him as an example. In 2024, we can handle this. Mars Falcon. I am going to reincarnate as a wizard, learn a levitation spell right out the gate, and bootstrap my way to $1 billion smackaroonies. Checkmate, peasants. I like it. I like it. I also like the idea that you would reincarnate as a wizard. Like, you got to be born with Dumbledore in your blood. That's interesting. Jess Rush. He should maybe hang out with his, 10 kids. Yeah, just spend some time with the family, Elon. For God's sake. Dawned on me. Saudi Arabia paid a majority of that price. Yeah, making deals with some of these equally scummy people is not great. Mars Falcon. How many fires does a fireman need to extinguish to earn $1 billion? How many lives must a paramedic save for $1 billion? How many cars must be tuned for $1 billion? How many students need to be taught for a teacher to earn $1 billion? If you think about it in those terms, the problem becomes crystal clear. What did Elon Musk do? He ordered engineers to go do real work based off a hunch. His hunches aren't that great. Just for fun, I'm glad I don't use Twitter or Facebook or such. A headache. Yeah, understood. Related note, we have a Facebook group now. Just for fun, aka Andrew, you're already watching. But for those that don't yet know we exist, let me share with you our Facebook group. Brought to us by none other than Wicked Foxy Dragon, for whom I am incredibly grateful. Thank you. Here is the Facebook group. I'm popping in there once in a while, saying hello to the crew in the off hours. And if you're on Facebook and you want to hang out, boom, there's a place right there. Just for fun, he was given slaves. Doesn't surprise me. John Bailey, good evening from San Francisco, California, enjoying a drink, smoking weed, and watching the stream. A man who I would definitely hang out with. I enjoy the occasional bit of bud. Lulu Girl. When Buffett tried to get billionaires to donate half their money, some wouldn't. He said he would write a book, How to Live on $500 Million. Good. I think Warren Buffett himself does not deserve all the money, but at least he acknowledges that he doesn't either. I tried to find it, says Dawned on Me, on Facebook and wasn't successful. Use the link. I just dropped a link there. Hopefully that'll help. But if you search what you can do, it's very likely to be one you find. And this group is run by Wicked Foxy Dragon. She's nailing it. Doing a great job. And I'm extraordinarily appreciative of those efforts. Look, I will not ever hesitate to ridiculously compliment myself. Hyper competent. when it comes to things I've practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. When it comes to any new thing, you want to know why I say I'm a bit of a dummy? It's because I fuck it up immediately. And that's actually where the understanding comes from. Because I get things so wrong so often that I know what wrong looks and feels like. I'm like, oh, hello, idiocy, my old friend. Oh, there's one thing I really want to share with you guys. Let's read through the Jack Smith indictment. What do you say? It's good. I'll tell you, it's good. Let's just read it. Well, just in case you hadn't heard, Donald John Trump, adding on to his list of infamy, is the first former U.S. president to be indicted federally. Now, Jack Smith, when he did the indictment, and he was asked about it, actually before he was even asked, he said that the thing he would like the people of the United States to do is read the thing. That's pretty fair. Let's do it. So this here is the indictment of Donald Trump. It's what Jack Smith says he did wrong. Okay, cool. Let's look. General allegations. At times, material in this indictment on or about dates approximate stated below. Okay, defendant Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States of America. Talking about when he held office. When he was president, Smith says he had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents and national defense information gathered and owned by the United States. Cool. Over the course of his presidency, Trump gathered newspapers. This is important, actually. Over the course of his presidency, Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, notes, cards, photographs, official documents, and other materials in cardboard boxes that he kept in the White House. Among those materials Trump stored in his boxes were hundreds of classified documents. Quick pause. Y'all know I think Trump tried to sell some of these things, just because I always try to think the least of him, because that has been a great guiding star for what he has actually done. But when I read this, it made me think, okay, it's entirely possible Trump is just that much of a dick. It's entirely possible that despite everything, I still overestimated Trump. I still thought there was some kind of method to this madness. No. At least according to Smith, it's entirely possible Trump just shoved these in a box, and when he was told he had them, was a big baby about it. I really don't want it to be that. I would rather he had a nefarious plan. I don't want to be Gargamel versus the Smurfs. I want a cool adversary. But it looks like it's entirely possible this guy was just so irresponsible with them. Moving on. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. I love David Feldman, but David Feldman was saying we shouldn't have that all this stuff doesn't matter, that it was classified. I gotta say I disagree. This, right, Cha? This matters. This is stuff I truly don't want foreign nations to know about, other nations at all to know about. Whether or not we should or shouldn't be doing this stuff, I do not want other nations knowing about it. Because it truly does endanger lives. It's not good. Maybe it's all out of date. Great. Neat. Hopefully that's the case. Regardless, it's bad. It's dangerous. And setting this as a precedent is particularly dangerous. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk national security of the United States. Okay, moving on. At 12 p.m. on January 20, after his failed coup, Trump ceased to be president. Thank Christ. As he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contained those classified documents, to be transported to his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he maintained his residence. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. Right here. Trump was not authorized to possess or maintain them. That is the first thing in this that Trump will disagree with. Has disagreed with. He says he was authorized. Okay, right there. And if you're a Trump fan, respond to this, please. Right there, Jack Smith disagrees with him. He says he was not authorized to. Don't you just think that a court of law is the proper place to hash that out? The law says what it says. Go in front of a judge. If Trump didn't do nothing, as you say, go in front of a judge, point to the place in the law where it says he was allowed to retain those documents. Forget that they were classified. Point to the place where it says he was allowed to retain those. Jack Smith will point to the place where it says he's not, and the judge will decide. I bet Trump can't do that because he was not allowed to retain those. Because of course not. Because I said, you said, millions of other Americans said, he cannot be president. Not allowed. No more. We picked a different guy because I and millions of others thought Trump's a bum. So we kicked him out. The Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club, which between yada yada hosted events for tens of thousands of members and guests. Okay, so security problems there. On 2 occasions in 2021, Trump showed classified documents to others as follows. We're going to get less detailed soon to power through this, but let's look at that. In July 2021, at a Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio-recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed security clearance, and regardless, even if they did, they didn't, but even if they did, wasn't Trump's business to decide they get to see it. It was Joe Biden's business. If it was the president's at all, frankly. Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret. In other words, it's still classified. He said, I could have declassified it. Now I can't. So it's classified. Okay. In August of September 2022, at the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee, Jesus Christ, who did not possess a security clearance, a classified map related to a military operation, and told the representative that he should not be showing it. Said he shouldn't be showing it to the representative. And that the representative should not get too close. On March 30th, 2022, the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention of classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago Club. A federal grand jury investigation began the next month. The grand jury, hey, said it right that time, issued a subpoena requiring Trump to turn over all documents with classified markings. If he would have done it, then that would have been that. But he didn't. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and the grand jury investigations and conceal his continued retention of classified documents by, among other things, suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI, a grand jury, that Trump did not have the documents. So, telling his attorney to lie. You want to know why Trump's attorneys keep dragging him to court? Some of them did what he asked and lied to the cops. Directing defendant Waltine Nauta, a.k.a. Walt Nauta, to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury, suggesting that his attorney hide or destroy documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, providing to the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for by the grand jury subpoena while claiming he was cooperating fully, and causing a certification to be submitted to the FBI and grand jury falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury subpoena had been produced, while knowing that, in fact, not all such documents had been produced. As a result of Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency and refusal to return them, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022. Again, not all the documents, at least to our knowledge, but hundreds of documents were not recovered until 2022. On January 17, nearly 1 year after Trump left office, and after months of demands by the National Archives and Records Administration for Trump to provide all missing presidential records, Trump provided only 15 boxes, which contained 197 good God documents with classification markings on June 3rd, in response to a grand jury subpoena demanding the production of all documents with classification markings. Trump's attorney provided the FBI 38 more documents with classification markings. On August 8th, pursuant to a court-authorized search warrant, the FBI recovered from Trump's office and a storage room at the Mar-a-Lago Club 102 more documents with classification markings. Jesus Christ. Okay. So let's talk about what we've read here. Imagine for a moment you took something from the government. Let's say you took just 10 classified documents. You took them from the government. And the government called you up and said, give them back. And you said no. You know what would happen? FBI would call your local sheriff's department, have them send a deputy out to see you. You'd be dragged out of your home in your boxer shorts and a t-shirt or whatever it is you sleep in. And they'd tell you to put your hands against the car, palms flat. And they'd cuff your hands behind your back then. And they'd sit you down cross-legged in front of the tire of the FBI's vehicle, and you'd wait there in your skivvies until the FBI field office could send somebody down. And then a team from that field office would go through your home, and they'd yank out the drawers and turn them over and toss those aside. They'd take a box cutter and slice open your pillowcases and yank out the stuffing. They'd overturn your bed. They'd go tearing through your house. If they had to, they'd take a hammer to the walls, peel the drywall down, and look in with a flashlight until they found every last document that they thought you had because you lied to them. And you might be able to stop some of the damage to your house by, with your hands still cuffed, and with an officer holding the back of your shirt, showing them, nodding towards where they were one at a time. And after they had acquired all of them, yet to uncuff you, they'd walk you back to the car, open up the back door, put the hand on the top of your head, say, watch your head, put you in, watch your legs till you swung in, close the door, and off you would go to jail. If it was on a Friday evening, let's say, by the time they're done, you would spend the weekend in jail because you can't see the judge till Monday. If you want to pay bail, they'll set bail on Monday. You're going to spend the weekend in jail. That's what would happen to you at the very most gentle. All Trump had to do was give them back within a year. All he had to do was give them back. He had multiple opportunities. But he didn't take it seriously because he doesn't take you seriously. We need to insist that he be shown that we are the sort of folks that need to be taken seriously. Enough of this oligarchy. Enough of the rich thinking they get to live by different laws than us. Don't let the right co-opt the idea of there being a two-tier system of justice. For the record, I think there should be. I think once you become a billionaire, once you become a powerful politician, then you should be held to a higher standard. What the right says is happening, I think, is what we should have done years ago. We should have insisted that these people treat these positions of responsibility with a little bit of respect. But at the very least, what is happening now is a delayed version of the rich and powerful being held to the same amount of accountability that we would be. The very delayed, very gentle version of actually having the laws applied to them. Brooke, no nonsense when it comes to people objecting to this. Be clear about what treatment Trump would have received if he was not once upon a time the president. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. There we go. Wicked Foxy Dragon, they always have a master document. That's how they knew what was missing. Yeah, I believe that. That makes sense. B.O., if they were Trump cops, you'd bang your head. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Good to see you, by the way. Scott Ward, I saw a clip where Trump was laughing and said that he had tied Biden's hands on the Afghanistan withdrawal. That does not surprise me. Jess Rush, no, I know. That's exactly my point. Who made the copies? Trump? No. Somebody who probably didn't have clearance. Yeah. Wholeheartedly agreed. I honestly think that right now, based on, or hell, for the last couple of months, based on what was missing, the U.S. is changing a tremendous amount of things about the way we operate. Just because we can't know that how we move is not exposed to everyone now. Dawned on me, the photocopy explanation was given by an ex-Trump lawyer. I didn't buy it when he said it, and I don't buy it now. Yeah, I agree. If he was truly just trying to sell national secrets, all he would have had to do is photocopy the things and then give the originals back. So it seems to me, because they say they've got the originals, that he really was just taking these so lightly. He just thought so little of us that he just took them like souvenirs. Ridiculous. Domenico, thanks for reading this, Jake. My pleasure, man. I might do an abridged version of the whole thing, but like every page is that. It's just laying out bit by bit everything we've been going over it. Scott Ward, get a cat and now feed it. Oh, my man. Thank you so much with the $2 super chat. Much appreciated. Oh. Dawned on me, there are 20 members of the Secret Service working in Mar-a-Lago, but supposedly they knew nothing. Are we supposed to be gullible? Yeah, we need to arrest members of the Secret Service. We need to make that an issue. They can't pretend like they knew nothing if they did not report on this guy. For that matter, I suspect in court we're going to hear from the person who took that recording. The person who was doing the Mark Meadows book, who Trump waved the document in front of. If we want to know if the document was in there, obviously Trump's going to lie about it. That person will be a fascinating witness, and I expect we'll hear from her. But look, the Secret Service freaking deleted the text from January 6th. They say it was an accident. I cannot believe we've allowed them to get away with saying that. It's heartbreaking. They are corrupt. I cannot imagine why we are permitting the people who guard the President of the United States to be working with a traitor like this. Domenico, have you ever considered running for office, Jake? Yes, I have, and I might in the future. But I do think that if we're looking at how much good I could do, what I'm doing right now has the potential to be the most. There's no reason I can't do both at once, and I might, just because I don't want to be a hypocrite, and I really encourage all of you guys to run for office. Yeah, Wicked Foxy Dragon, he wants us to. BO, I'd vote Jake. Well, all right. But will I do it? Probably, just to make a point. I'll probably pick a bright red district and just try to drain some of the GOP's money fighting me for the seat. But I think, above all, what the U.S. needs, and frankly, any place with a representative democracy needs, is an understanding by the people of how to control their politicians. So no matter who we get in office, we are pushing them towards where we want to go. So the short answer is yes. I would consider it, but if I'm being practical, I think my skills and training is more towards this, and this will be my priority for the near future. But I have to admit, and this is purely selfish, I have to admit, there is a temptation in a scenario where a right-wing nutjob will have to debate me on a stage as a part of getting their job. Like, literally have to debate me. Just for that, I could see myself filing all the forms and doing whatever just to get that debate, to dunk on someone like that for 90 minutes. Anyway. Folks, I like the sound of Defendant 45, says Wireless Mike. It has a nice ring to it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And Prisoner number 45, whatever, also has a nice ring to it. Dawned on me, I'm really sad that the trial won't be televised, not that Fox would air it. Yeah, me too. I'm going to try to think of a way to, in a very entertaining manner, pitch that to folks. Like, show people what happened day by day, because I do think we need it done. Dawned on me, we went through that. Bo saying Wicked, hell yeah. Bo, B-O, money out of politics. Yeah, the way to do that is on our, way to do that is a clip is a short video that was done on Wicked earlier this year. There's a group called Restore Our Democracy, and they've got a great plan. It's to get a new amendment in the Constitution, and it is totally Jesus Christ, it's totally achievable. We need 2/3 of the states and yada, yada, yada. It's a big push that we're going to have to do, but it's worth it. And I think there's enough people, both Democrat and Republican, who despise the people that buy our politicians now, that I think it's doable. I will say, though, it becomes a hell of a lot easier if we have a blue House, Senate, and White House. So most of our efforts between now and November 2024 are going to be working to make that election an absolute blue tsunami, a blue biblical flood that changes the landscape from here on out. And all of our work after that, assuming we're successful, all of our work is going to be on harassing those punks that we put into office and making them making them do what we want, because we will have taken away all excuses. And if they don't, if we have anybody who's not voting, then literally just having crowds of people outside their office every day dunking on them and holding signs and streaming and going to their personal pages and saying, hey, this punk right here didn't vote to get big money out of politics. Guess who I'm never voting for again, you rat. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Dunking on politicians is truly a passion. All right, y'all. Oh, mercy me. I got to start uploading. I will see y'all next week, because this has been Salty Saturday with WYCD Wicked. Thank you so much for joining me today. Scott Ward, thank you again for the super chat. That helps me quite a bit. So do the likes. I'm not even going to ask y'all to like the stream. You did. I see who's watching. I see the number of likes we have. It's delightful. Thank you. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. And if you haven't told anybody about it, invite them on down. It's an imperfect show with an imperfect host, but a perfect audience. And that I'm happy to advertise. Let's grow it. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. I'll see you next time. Lulu girl, you think I didn't see that super chat with the $5? Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Good God, I'm going to get me a coffee. I'll tell you what.